The path to my destruction in a second career begins right here. 2 days
That was funny.
On Tuesday and not bad, right? Tuesdays
Real
and
good.
Thursdays with our main man. Tracy, you're looking good. Are you feeling good after the accident a couple of weeks ago now?
Well, my wife said to me today, she said, your nose is a mess. Can you see that big old bump on there?
I do.
Yeah, it's not good, but what the heck are you going to do? 61 years old, my days of chasing wool are behind me. Something wrong, Tom?
No, nothing at all.
Before you start,
totally.
let me say something. Your story about Ron Yeri, that was outstanding. I really like Ron Yeri. Played at USC. He was a left tackle, I think, with the Vikings, number 73. Yeah. And I remembered those Viking teams would always beat my Rams team in the playoffs, whether it was Fred Cox kicking a field goal or Paul Krause making an interception. Goes way back. Ron Yeri is one of the greatest tackles of all time. Great story, Tom.
And a great dude. I'm telling you, I so much enjoyed it. He was a very soft-spoken guy, great sense of humor. And we'd sit up there at the Blind Lemon and have a number of cocktails and just hang out. And I'd sit back and listen to stories with him. And I was like 23. And what an awesome dude. I want to get back to something, though, for a second, because you texted me yesterday. Okay,
yes.
Your nose is beat up, your face is beat up, those kinds of things. And before we get into some of these other topics, you said to me that you have some actual health advice that you want to share with me, and I didn't have a chance for you and I to get into that. Could you do that here? Is it appropriate for here or not really?
No, it's all right. Listen, let me first state that I am not a doctor. I could have been a doctor. My mom wanted me to be a doctor, but my dad says, you know what? We got plenty of doctors. Being a doctor is really easy. Be a Major League Baseball player. So I chose to be a Major League Baseball player. But I don't kid around with two things, people's money and health. And something that's really helped me, and I just got through with a physical last week, is what I'm doing is fasting. And I can't tell you how much better I feel by only eating once a day. I eat around between 6 and 8 o'clock at night. But during the day, I only drink coffee and water. When I went to the doctors about 6 months ago, my levels were elevated on my liver. Imagine that. My AST and my ALT. I went back, my triglycerides, all those tests that they give you, your blood tests, went back and they were excellent. There wasn't a single range that I was out above. Everything was right in the range. And the doctor turned to me, he says, what the heck did you do? He says, your numbers are great. I says, Doc, I only eat once a day. I fast and I feel so much better. And I discovered this when I did a show with your dad. I hadn't eaten for 36 hours. We did 10 shows, Jones and Brenneman on baseball on 700 WLW. And I went in there and knocked out 10 shows, and I was actually pretty sharp. Your dad's always sharp, and I kind of stumble around like I do. But I told stories. I was right on point, and your dad turned to me and says, boy, that's the best shows you've ever taped. And it was the whole deal with fasting. Because I find that when I eat, Tom, my body shuts down. And I get, I got to take a nap, so on and so forth. People, if you're listening, just try it. Try it for a couple days. You don't have to do it all the time, but it just kind of cleans things out. And those numbers, my doctor, I says, if you had to grade my health, A, B, C, D, or F, I says, what would you give me? He says, an A-. Wow. I says, my numbers are that good? He says, your numbers are good for any age. And my point is, my numbers were bad. I'm going to go on some medicine to being pretty good. So just advice.
It's interesting you bring that up because I mentioned the name a little while who's like a second father to me, a guy named Eddie Shepard, who is a two-time cancer survivor of colon cancer. And, he was looking for ways a couple of years ago and kind of stumbled upon this fasting idea that you're sharing now. And he and his wife, Pat, are both doing it for a long, long time where you just eat once a day. If I understand this right, and I heard you right, it's between certain hours of the day. And you stick to that regimen. And for a guy who's a two-time cancer survivor, his numbers, like your numbers, are just fantastic. I mean, look, fasting, you read about in the Bible all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's got to be something to it just based on that alone. But you're not the first person that I've heard has had great success with. Do you get, my issue would be that I would concern myself with, because I drink a ton of water, I drink a lot of coffee, okay?
Yep.
I'm okay with both of those things.
Yep.
But you know how you get hangry? Don't you get hangry?
Occasionally. I'll get a little wobbly. Like the time I slipped and fell and hit my head and broke my nose. I was doing a 36-hour fast. Sometimes with me, the truth comes out a little bit later. And so my wife.
Well, you have just sent that whole argument into a straight train wreck.
36 hours is too much. Okay. Yeah. It's way, way too much. But yeah, I was a little shaky, and you do have to watch that. So consult your doctor first. But people, give it a try. You got nothing to lose. I've lost 10 pounds. Feel good.
Well, but you're a professional athlete. I mean, that's easier to have it fall off you than it is for the rest of us normal people, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a freak. I'm kind of a freak. There's very few of us. Actually, Tom, you have a better opportunity of winning the lottery than you do playing a Major League Baseball player.
I know.
It's really great.
Tracy, when you eat once a day, you also get that steak and lobster. I mean, you're eating some real premium meals, so it's worth it.
That's true. If you can afford it, yeah, it's nice. You live in the life of Riley. I mean, I have prime rib. I have ribeye steaks are my favorite.
Milwaukee's Best included in that?
Is who?
I said, is Milwaukee's Best included in that?
No, Grey Goose.
Grey Goose. Okay, that's right. Yeah,
Grey Goose.
Because you don't sink to the river rats of Milwaukee's Best. You got
not a ham and egger.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we know that already. You brought up last week, and it's starting to get more and more, I'm not going to call it traction.
Legs.
That's the wrong word. Yeah, there's some legs to this whole thing, about Tom Brady. And you've had a man crush. You can come out as one man will for another, and you'll admit that, hey, you're blown away by what this guy's been able to do, and, success every time you turn around, on the field, off the field, so on and so forth. But, last week he doesn't have three of his receivers. Godwin, Julio Jones, Mike Evans is suspended. They struggle again. And now all the stuff is starting up again about, is all of his focus, and that's never been questioned with Tom Brady, is all of his focus being devoted to being the greatest quarterback of all time right now?
Tom, this is why people have to watch this podcast. We see things that you people don't see, right? We were talking about it last week. Nobody was talking before about Tom Brady's situation with Giselle. Now that's topic A around. I actually watched the game against Green Bay and Rodgers. Brady is making mistakes that I've never seen him make. That 2-point conversion down on the goal line, delay a game.
I know
He's never done that. He's never done that. But he's yelling a lot. Do you see pictures of him? How much weight has he lost? I mean, he doesn't look like himself. And there's one person to blame, Giselle. She drops the kids off. Now tell me this, the kids go to the game, but she doesn't? I mean, the poor guy is on edge. He's frustrated. And I'm telling you, and you look this up in a medical book, he's got FSB.
FS what?
FSB. It's short for fatal sperm backup.
Oh, my God.
Tom, see, the married men know what I'm talking about. I didn't have this until I got married, but I've got the affliction a little bit at times. And Tom, do you ever suffer now that you don't have that job with Fox and you're not bringing home the big checks? Do you have FSB?
You know what? I get it. I totally get what you're saying.
There's a lot of truth to that.
I can't believe I'm admitting this on a show we're just starting, that we're talking about the acronym of FSB.
What is
that
it?
What you said?
Say it, Tom.
FSB.
No, not the acronym. Say the whole thing. The three words.
Sperm backup. Is that right?
There we go.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, we've experienced it since we got married, but ask those two guys, the producers. Now, they've experienced that their whole life, so they really don't see any adjustment. They've experienced it. They've had it their own life.
Well, I thought you were making the argument that this only hits married men. I thought that's what you were saying. These guys aren't married.
Well, I know, but they're not getting any. So they have FSB.
Okay. All right.
Well, but he is playing on edge. He's a different player now, and I feel bad for him. I really do, because it's affecting his play. I love Tom Brady.
Some of these, some of our fans lure up, says Tracy. Fasting he knows about. Meditation is another way to break out of a rut. Are you into the whole meditation thing yet?
I do some quiet time. I like to go out on my balcony, as you know, look over the city of Cincinnati and go, boy, am I lucky. But just relax, take some deep breaths, breathe through your nose, not through your mouth. Now, if you have a broken nose, that's a situation. So I'm a mouth breather now. But just kind of relaxing. That woman makes an excellent point. Meditation, fasting, just things to make you feel better.
That's my dad, by the way. That's not a woman. Lure Up is my dad.
Oh, that's your dad. That's right. That's right. So, yeah.
Oh, he has a girl's name.
Yeah. Right.
It's a girl's name.
Well, no, Lure Up is the name of his company, like a fishing lure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He built this beautiful set behind us here.
Oh, very nice.
We might have to have him come to your house and build a little set behind you, since you're on us with a couple of days a week. I had a guy come up to me the other day, and he said to me, do you know who Pat McAfee is? You and I talked about Pat McAfee, right?
Yeah.
Now he's kind of gone big time after running around in the tank top. Now he's on College Game Day, and the guy says to me, he says, your show. He said, I like watching your show. He said, I really like when Tracy Jones is on there. I said, me too. And he says, if that guy came on with you 5 days a week, he said your show would explode like Pat McAfee's show exploded. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm going to give it some thought, because working with you is a lot like working with your dad. You guys are both really good. I'm a busy person, Tom, and I've got to make time. But I'm thinking about it. Okay. I don't want to, this might hurt you doing the show of getting back to network TV. Do you think?
Hey, you know what? We keep talking about FSB. We might up on networks we never thought we'd be on.
Hey, listen, can I just stop for a second? I'm sweating like a dog. Here's the deal. My wife comes
Trace
in.
Fowler, our CEO, told me to tell you to turn on the air conditioning in that
palatial
condominium pad you have there that overlooks downtown Cincinnati.
I think it's a side effect of FSB. All that sweating he's doing.
You know what? It could be, or the fireplace that my wife turned on for my dog Tucker. I says, I'm hot. She says, that's all right. Tucker needs the fireplace, and my dog just sits by the fireplace till he can't take it anymore. So I am sweating like a dog. I'm gonna have to get a fan, something.
Yeah, you really do, because it's sort of embarrassing. You come on the show and sweat like this.
Gosh, let me blot my face.
I want to ask you, but put on some eye black or something. Hey, I want to ask you real quick. The Reds have now lost 94 games. Did you ever play on a team that lost 100 games in a season?
I did. I played on the 1991 Tigers. That's the year that Sparky Anderson left the team for a couple of weeks, and that didn't go over too well with the players. We lost, and we had pretty good players. We had Jack Morris, Frank Tanana, myself, Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Tracy Jones, Cecil Fielder. There were some good players, but a lot of us got hurt. We had to bring up some AAA guys, and we were horrible. We lost 100 games, and Sparky couldn't take that, Tom. He really took it to heart, and it was a tough year. It was a really tough year. Does
it make a difference, Tracy? And I guess what I'm getting at is the Reds have basically been out of contention since the second week of the season. I mean, they were like 3-22 or something outrageous, and they've gone through stretches where they played all right, and now they're sort of fading at the very end. They've already lost 94. Is there any effect inside of a clubhouse where you're saying to yourself, I mean, it's one thing when you're trying to play to win a division or to win a wild card or things like that. Are there guys sitting around talking in a clubhouse? I'm being serious about this. Are there guys sitting around in a clubhouse that are saying, man, we can't lose 100 games?
Hell no. You know what they're worried about, Tom? Is getting some knocks. I've said this many a times. I'd rather go 4 for 4 and my team lose than go 0 for 4 and my team win. It's about staying in the big leagues, and you're worried about your stats, and especially if you can pad your stats the last month of the season. Now, there's a lot of players, and we've talked about this, that come up that last month that you can kind of get fat on, but you're looking at your numbers. You want to finish strong. You're not worried about losing 94 games or losing 100 games. It really doesn't matter. You've had a lousy season.
You know, I mean, I get that part about the individual part because, I mean, you know, look, baseball, I know they say it's a team game, but I think different than football and basketball, the other two big sports, throw hockey in there if you want is fine, but it really is much more of an individual sport. Yes, played by members of a team, but it really is an individual sport. I mean, the very act of pitcher-batter is an individual sport in and of itself inside of a game for how many batters come into a game, right?
Right. I mean, you think about it. You have a bad game. You have a couple bad games. I mean, you could be sent back down to the minors. You'll sit on the bench. And I'm not going to say winning isn't important because it is, but having those stats, staying in the big leagues. Because once you're out of the game, Tom, those friends that you had on the team, you don't hear from them at all.
You know, you and I have talked about baseball and how they're, I think last check, I think when I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, there were 19 of the 30 teams in baseball had more strikeouts than base hits. You know, guilty as charged. I don't watch baseball like I used to watch baseball. When I was paid to go watch baseball, I don't watch it. I rarely ever watch it anymore. But in this job, I'm checking every morning to see if Aaron Judge hit a home run the night before so I can talk about it on the show the next day. Last night was the first time that I actually sat down and looked at the New York Yankees lineup, okay? And I'm going to try to pull it up here right now. I'm not very good at this stuff. But I sit there and I look at the box score of the New York Yankees from last night, right? And I'm trying to pull it up here, and I'm just not very good at it. But long story short is, I cannot believe some of these batting averages, Tracy, by guys that are playing in the big leagues today, and people talk about them like they're great players. I just don't know, and I know all the analytics people out there would say, "Oh, it's not about batting average." You know, that's fine. But here we go. Okay, Anthony Rizzo. I found it. Anthony Rizzo, 226. Donaldson, 226. Giancarlo Stanton is hitting 211. 211 with a slugging percentage of 450. Cabrera, 230. I mean,
good players.
Well, I guess that's how you define a good player now, right? How are so many of the guys that are allegedly the best offensive players in the game? I just ripped off. Now, Judge is an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Rizzo and Giancarlo Stanton, along with Donaldson, have been three of the most productive offensive players in baseball for a number of years. And people are still talking about Stanton like he's anything anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, it goes back to the numbers. We talked about this, I think, or maybe I talked about it with your dad. April, May of the beginning of the season, there were 54 players hitting under 200. Manny Machado is 5th in the National League in hitting. Do you know what he's hitting, Tom? 297. Gets you 5th. People that have career average or hitting 270, that puts you in the top 30 in the National League. 270? Really?
That's hard to believe. I did not know.
Crazy.
That's why you are Tracy Jones. You bring information. You come prepared on multiple topics across the board.
And I got to bring this up because it involves your dad. I know your dad's on tomorrow. That's called cross promoting, Tom.
Thank you.
I know your dad's on tomorrow. I've had a pretty good relationship with your dad for years. We argue very little about sports, baseball. Once in a while we'll heat it up a little bit. The one thing you can't talk to him about is Ted Williams. I swear to God, he thinks Ted Williams is the greatest hitter of all time. And I don't want to bring up, you know what, Marty? Back in those 40s, that was when baseball was at its worst, right? As far as the era he played in, he was the best. But you put him in the league now, facing some of these Dominican pitchers throwing 102, that guy hit 270. I just think it's a total different game.
I'm not buying that. I got to tell you, I'll tell you where this whole Ted Williams thing started, Tracy. When I was doing the Reds games, and there were times where my dad and I would do the radio together, I made the comment that I thought Barry Bonds was the best offensive player and hitter I had ever seen.
And he is. You're right.
Until I go back, and I'm not a big stats guy, but I got to tell you, you look at Ted Williams, and you can say it's a 40, you can say whatever you want to say. When you look at his numbers, they are sick.
Okay, I agree. You know what's really sick is a 482 on base average, a 634 slugging percentage. I mean, I'm not gonna sound stupid here and start taking down Ted Williams. I'm just saying players now are so much better than the players back in the 30s, 40s. I mean, Pete Rose used to say the best pitching ever was back in the 60s with Koufax, Drysdale, Marichal, Gibson. And I was like, okay, and who else?
Right,
and it's a stupid comment. You have to admit, those four, yeah, but what about the bullpen? I mean, it's just, players are better. Why are we always comparing old-time baseball players, right? Who's better, Ted Williams or, Cabrera? We're making comparisons. We never do that in football, right? We don't make comparisons. Players, I remember when offensive linemen weighed 230 pounds.
Yep.
Now they weigh 330. You don't make that comparison in basketball. Talk about the top 10 basketball players of all time. I never hear Oscar Robertson or Jerry West's name mentioned. I never hear Elgin Baylor compared to LeBron James, right? You don't make those comparisons. But in baseball, they love to do it, right?
Well, you can argue about it with my dad the next time you tape your show.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, hell no.
Is it Brenneman and Jones on baseball or Jones and Brenneman on baseball?
It's actually Jones and Brenneman on baseball. And I like we need to have some type of a name for our show. Maybe Brenneman Jr. and Jones on anything. What about this? I got one. What about your show is Tom Brenneman off the bench? Well, I spend a lot of time on the bench, shorten up a little. What about BJ on the bench? Oh, wait a minute, that's not good. Take that back. You like that one, Tom?
Tracy, it's been great having you with us here on this Tuesday. Best of luck in fasting, and be careful walking around on the patio.
I'm more concerned about FSB. I got to do something about that. It hurts.
All right.
I'll see you on Thursday, Tom.
I'll see you on Thursday. If we're still here
all right.
Thursday.
See you, buddy.
I don't even know if we'll still be here Thursday. We might be off the air by Thursday.